Welcome back to the Graphfit podcast. Today is, I say this every time, but today is a really special episode. It is episode 10, the first time I've actually known what episode it is. And it's the season finale, so this is the end of season 1. And we thought it would be only fitting to have Reece and Ben. So welcome, Reece and Ben.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure you already know Reece and Ben. If you know us, you probably know Reece and Ben, who obviously own and run Passion Productions, who has been behind the scenes doing the podcast for the 10 episodes, including this one, up to now. We have something really cool coming for season 2, which is going to switch things up a little bit. So we thought we'd do a bit of a, it's like, Desperate Housewives, where they all they go through. Have you seen it?
I don't know.
Oh,
Mate,
you're going to stitch me up.
I don't know
No,
what
you must have
about.
seen it. Has anyone else seen
Too
it?
busy watching the footy.
Desperate House, where they... All right, mate. Alpha male.
He plays netball as
No,
well.
so for context. So what they do is they do the whole season, and then at the end of it, they all go do a show where they go over the kickoffs that have happened in the season, and it's sort of like a season finale, and the kickoffs reignite, and it's quite fun.
There's been nothing like that because we're not reviewing previous episodes. We're just not doing a new one, so
We could review Jack's
Completely
joke that
irrelevant.
he's just had on you then.
could do. Do my joke as well. Yeah.
All right.
Depends where you want to go.
Just for anybody that might not have switched off already because we've just been chatting shit, we're going to do a bit of a backstory. So there's a story kind of to how we have ended up in this building, and we'll give an idea into that. For those that don't know, we share a building, and which is pretty cool, and how the businesses have sort of expanded from there. But also we'll go back to the start, maybe talk about that, and then we'll squeeze in some content stuff, some marketing stuff, some brand stuff along the way as well. But I think it'd be quite a cool bit of a journey pod.
Yeah.
So welcome to the podcast.
How's life?
It's all right. It's not too bad. We just took Elizabeth on, so that's added a new dynamic to the office because you already did it. So again, context. I'll say this probably about 10 times throughout the whole episode. We have been dominantly male, both companies. So Passion been dominantly male. We've been dominantly male. Then you took Kelsey on, which was the first female kind of into the mix.
Kind of.
So the other males are questionable. So we've seen the dynamic change for your team in the office, and then Elizabeth. Obviously, we had Fiona, but she works remotely. Now Elizabeth, and we're starting to see the dynamic change probably a little bit as well, just by adding a female. And it's gone from like some kind of changing room environment to more of an actual real office.
You can't see off camera, but Joe's wearing a button up, isn't he?
Yeah, they've all dressed up. Came in yesterday. Sam sat there in his boxers, so I don't know what happened there.
It's a lot quieter as well throughout the building, isn't it? Isn't it? Like a lot more well behaved.
Unless Nala kicks off. But anyway, we'll get into it. So introduce yourselves for those that don't know who Passion is. Let's just
Can we introduce Passion as a brand, but then introduce each other? So Reece, you introduce Ben and vice versa.
So this is Ben. This is me uncle.
You have to give context on that as well.
No, I think I'll leave it there.
That is the context, really. I'm his uncle.
He's my big uncle Ben, who I decided to start a business with, and he's not too shabby. Too shabby. Yeah,
I was quite tame. I thought he was going to absolutely roast him.
Nah, not like that. We're not toxic like he's. You know what I mean? We like just.
It's our podcast, this, you know. It's not yours. Go on.
This is Reece, my nephew. Mistakenly, people think we're brothers or friends or cousins or something like that. We decided to, I wouldn't say friends, but we started to start a business 6 years ago.
like that.
And for anyone that's watching on YouTube, you'll see the reason why it seems strange that your nephew and uncle.
There's only 3 years between us.
Yeah, well, it doesn't even.
Opposites.
But it doesn't even look like there's 3 years between you either. You could be the same
Whoa.
age.
Whoa.
Well, I'm saying Ben's younger, not you. Older.
You don't have to lie, mate. It's
Which
fine.
is a bit of a strange one, but
Sorry to interrupt, but did we tell you when we first met that we were
this
brothers?
was what I was talking about. So tell us.
So usually it's obviously there's 3 years between me and Ben. So when we're on shoots and stuff, people go, "That's dead weird," and then they want to start getting into family dynamics and stuff like that. And I'm just there to do my job. You know what I mean? So it was easier to be like, "Oh, we're brothers," because then people just go, "Oh."
We were practically brought up as brothers, though. Like,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? Because obviously I was 3 when he was born, and it was just like always around each other. It's just that's the kind of way it was. So
You lived together for a while. You lived together.
no,
No,
not
just
really.
always.
So when hang on a minute, how do you work that? How can you not live together when? If you lived, hang on a minute. Like, let's break it down. So did you not live with your dad?
No.
Oh,
Yeah. So
All right.
I was the favourite child,
Yeah.
okay.
and I
all
weren't
right.
technically the child.
So you was in his bed, was you? You
Well, I
had-
wouldn't put it like that. But so yeah, we just kind of said like, we were brothers, but again, you can see us, we look absolutely nothing alike.
Yeah, nothing like each
Well,
other.
like what tends to happen is we'd say we were brothers because thinking that we'd work with someone just once and
Yeah,
never
but then
see
you
them
develop
again.
the relationship down
And
the
then
line.
you work them again and again and you go, actually, we're not brothers.
Yeah. At that point, though, it's like you've kind of made your bed. You've just got to run with it. Then.
Yeah,
It's
that's
weird.
it.
It's a reverse back and go. When I told you we were brothers a year ago, we're actually uncle and nephew. It's just doesn't.
Yeah.
Can't really be trusted
This
anymore.
whole working relationship built on.
Yeah, it's a lie.
Passion Productions gives us a little bit of an insight of what you do, and we'll go into the journey a bit more as we go on. But for anyone that doesn't know, what's Passion Productions?
Yeah, I mean, well, for me, I dropped the productions a long time ago.
Just passion.
Yeah, I just refer to it as passion now. Obviously, Instagram handle and stuff and emails, productions, but
That was mainly though because people kept on saying passion products.
Yeah.
Just do me fucking.
Okay.
grinds me gears, passion.
We've had like graphic and all sorts.
we get
over the years.
Graphfit.
Graphite, yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously, fundamentally, video. That's where we kind of started and stuff, and it's grown into other avenues and things as the industry and world changes, like left, right, and centre. But yeah, just kind of obviously we'll talk about the journey of it, but it started just from pretty much phones, giving it a go, and then yeah, now we're next door to you guys with a team and everything, and working closely together and stuff.
I was in uni, didn't like it. He'd just come out of uni as well, and we were just a bit like, "There's fucking be something decent to be doing here, rather than just getting like a generic
run-of-the-mill job.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? And I've always been interested in video, and I remember I'd watched. I'm not too sure if you know, but you know Casey Neistat.
Yeah.
He was like vlogging loads at the time, and he was working at a talent agency company, and I just sent him a video and was like, "Lad, watch this! Isn't he like the most like?" Yeah, it was like very addictive to watch, and I've got quite an addictive personality. And I used to I still do, just send them shite all day, every day. But he mustn't have replied for like a day or something, and then messaged me back and was like, "Lad, I have done zero work for 24 hours because all I've done is go back and watch these videos." And I think that was like the first thing of like, wouldn't it be sick to do something? I've
Yeah.
actually got, I think on that day that I'd sent him it, I'd wrote down like in some little fucking notebook thing, of like, it'd be sick to be like a full-time like content creator like this Casey.
Yeah.
And then from there, we just kind of...
So there was no previous interest in, well, I mean, video is a vague term, but let's say video production, all that type of stuff. There was nothing.
Nothing
the
really.
pipeline.
You know, I did music in university, and unlike everyone else, you come out of university and you're thrown into this kind of like, right, there's the next like 50 years of working life, like good luck kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you don't really know where
I guess
you're
that's
going.
where a lot of the creativity probably comes from, though, isn't it? Because if you were doing music and obviously you still, what would you call it? You do gigs?
Yeah, I still play like as a
musician,
hobby now.
yeah.
It is just
Yeah.
pretty much a hobby now, though. Like
Yeah,
I pick and choose when I kind of want to do it. But that was probably the worst thing to do, was go and study music. But that's because you think like, well, I'm interested in it, so I must study it, and then I must get a job in it, and then do that. But in reality, like that's not what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I know.
What about the creativity for you then?
I'd always been like into cameras and editing and stuff like that. Like when I say editing, like literally like putting like clips together, like you get on iMovie and stuff. I just like naturally was just fascinated by that stuff. But I used to, because I was like into footy and stuff like that, I just naturally be like, I'm not creative like, at all. And then obviously when Ben's playing guitar and stuff like that, I was just like, I'm not. I just don't
that's
have
not
any
you,
really creativity in me. And then
You did give it a go though. Like you still play a bit of guitar, don't you? Like
yeah, but it's like, if you can do it better than me, I may as well just not do it. So I'd kind of done that, and then when it comes to like, I just didn't know what I wanted to do, and I feel like that when you're in like sixth form or college or whatever, you're still like so young, do you know what I mean? So then obviously I know it's like the whole like B movie vibe, but like you just got to pick like one thing and then be like, do that for the rest of your life. It just scares the shit out of me.
Everything feels so serious then as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like you look back now and you go, actually, I wouldn't say all of them, but the majority of the decisions you made at that age lasted a couple of months. It didn't really
It's all
last.
like reparable, isn't it? It's always salvageable if you just make the wrong decision at that point, or you're not quite sure what you're doing at your time. It's like the worst thing ever, isn't it? If you didn't know what to pick for your GCSE options, or you get your A-level results and you're like, shit, what do I want to do? At the time, it's like the biggest decision you've got to make, but you kind of look back now and it's pretty menial, isn't it?
And I think as well, like, I think the schools like put so much emphasis on it. So like I went back to my school and like give a few like talks and stuff like that, and you can see like the pure stress. And I didn't really take school like super seriously, like, but I do remember being stressed over like what do I want to do, because everyone seemed to know what they were going to do.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
you know what I mean? And when I was going back and doing those talks last year, so many kids who were like, so how early did you know like you were going to be like into videography and stuff like that? And I was like, a few years ago.
It's crazy really as well, because like we've grown up. I say we're all pretty similar age, aren't we, within a couple of years? And we know now at this, I guess, earlier stage that the decisions that matter then. But then the people that are putting the pressure on you also, you would think, probably knew that as well. But they still put the pressure on. It's just like, but I think we're seeing a change in that now. And I think that's what, like in our world, like let's call it like the agency world and like the creative world, that Passion's in, that Graphfit's in, you're starting to see more like young founders or young CEO, whatever they want to call themselves, whatever, creating these companies or creating these lifestyle businesses, probably because from the top it's filtering, different opinions are filtering it, and more people are giving, like maybe even like us, are starting to make that point known that actually I didn't know at the start. So people are trying stuff, and then naturally everyone's become more creative. Definitely, I don't know if I'm sure it'd be really difficult to get stats on it, but like surely from our perspective, we all see like the creativity in business is on an incline from young people.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Like if you go back to like I don't know what, like 5, 10, say like 10 years ago, and you look at like Instagram and stuff as a platform, like what business was really like?
Yeah.
You'd obviously have like, I don't know, you have like journalism businesses like Vice or something that was always obviously video dominated, but generally not like many businesses like a graphic design company or whatever would really be at like the forefront of like creating content and stuff like that. Which wasn't really a thing. And I think like, again, because his dad, my granddad, has got a business, we've kind of grown up with that old school marketing and stuff like that, of like literally leaflets, word of mouth sort of thing. Which I think it's interesting, because when we have conversations with him, I feel like he understands what we're saying, but he doesn't get it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't know whether like you've experienced that where someone's like they're just not of that generation. So it's like it's going in what you're saying, but it's going straight back.
I guess though, on that, it's a good point. I guess though, from where you might have benefited, well, I'm sure you would have benefited anyway, but the fact that, like you just said, like you grew up with somebody who I'm sure you looked up to and still look up to now, who was self-employed, let's say, and was building a business, I guess that must have given you some kind of sort of lens into, oh, well, I don't have to go and work for someone else.
Yeah, I think definitely we come from like a very kind of hard working family. Like dad's got businesses. My sister, his mum, runs my dad's business now with her husband. My other sister's got her own business. Uncles have got their own businesses. Like, and it was just drilled in us that you have to work. Like no matter what it is that you do, like whether you go and work for someone else, whatever, you have to work. Yeah. But you don't have to work for someone else. You can do it yourself as well. I'm probably more polar opposite from like my other side of the family, like on my mum's side, are a little bit more kind of, they didn't get it. Still, probably some of them don't get it to this day. That like, you know, I'm like running a business and stuff. They go like, when are you gonna get a real job? Yeah. Like, you know, like your cousin, like go and get like a proper job kind
Still
of thing.
Still making videos.
Yeah. What is it that you do kind of thing? And I just go, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Well, there are these, the one thing I always go back to, especially, I think we see it a lot in the fitness industry, where these businesses that we're building, there isn't really a blueprint. Like, let's say, so your dad owns a garage, your granddad owns a garage. There's kind of a blueprint of how you probably successfully can start and grow and maybe even sell or move on or pass down a garage. Like, people have done that for years.
Yeah.
But the agency world, I feel like in the creative space, is still in a weird sort of where like people have done it, but there seems to be a big gap in the middle where like you hear stories about them failing, or you hear stories about coming from like Gary Vee or Stephen Bartlett, who then they're worth multiple millions. There's kind of no real in between.
It's so hard, isn't it? Because like, you know, you can build a garage up and you can do a great like service, no pun intended, on a car or whatever. Like, but you can do that, and not like people can come and learn that skill on a type of car. But people might come and work for Graphfit because they want your expertise or whatever. Or they might come and work for us, like with us, because they want us or whatever. And if you move away from that, the client's going to be like, well, why would I stay here then? I want something like, you know, something else. And I think that's kind of the biggest battle in these like agencies these days, is to show that, like, you know, it's a creative effort from a creative team. It's not just one specific person, or two specific people that are doing that. Yeah. And obviously putting value on everyone else's efforts as well. That's like a really important thing. But even just like on the the thing with the garage stuff now. Like we've got job adverts out for the garage. No one wants to do it.
Yeah.
Because
What for recruiting?
yeah, like no one wants to do it because creative jobs and working in nice offices and all that kind of
So
stuff.
like less young people doing
Yeah,
it.
and
Cause it's the same. Cause it's trying to find a joiner. He wants a
Yeah.
young joiner. Can't find one.
because why would you go and do that when you could come and work in like a nice place like this and do something creative and all that?
It's interesting though, because like I get it, but then at the same time, like again, just making this context of like the garage and stuff, like my granddad's always been like, that's not a proper job, what you do. Like it's just
not manual labour.
It's just like because you're not physically like he's like
Yeah,
I've
if,
been
if, if you're not
man's-
fucked by the end of the day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
do you know what I
Covered in
mean?
oil.
Yeah, covered in oil.
Like
I've done that.
this is a lot better. Well, that being said, though, like if you do a service or something on a car, then like unless you drive away and your car runs like shite, no one's gonna know that was a good service.
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
do you know what I mean?
just
But
is
like
what it is.
in this industry of like what you do, what we do, every kind of bit of success is pretty much measured by your last project that's went out. You know what I mean? And like you don't really, unless you have like a bad customer service in something like a garage or whatever, then people might go, oh, I wouldn't use them again or
A
something.
bit more black and white though, isn't it?
Yeah, like this is like I've always had it in my head. It's like we're as good as our last project,
Yeah.
and that's kind of like live by the sword, die by the sword. Then
I think that's where the culture's come from. That's why I've always said how physical offices are so important for like agencies and creative businesses, because you just mentioned there about sort of everything being measured, which means that you're always striving for perfection, essentially, which some would argue you never achieve, but you're always looking to be better. If you're always looking to be better and you're under that pressure, yourself and the team are under that pressure, then you need a nice environment to make people feel comfortable and to get the best out of them, which again is extra complexity that these, not real businesses have compared to like a traditional business.
And then with that as well, like just like how mentally taxing that can be. Like I obviously used to valet cars down that garage and didn't have a care in the world. Don't get me wrong, it was freezing. When it got to like January, February, I couldn't feel my fingers and was like, this is the worst. But for the majority of it, you just got music on and you just plodding along. Whereas like there is just so many different things, 'cause every single business that you work with, you want to do the best job for. But like, well, we've had this thing obviously recently where like people kind of want us to be on the shoots, and I get it because they see us like kind of on the face of it and stuff like that. But it's like you won't get the best of passion if we're on the shoots.
Yeah.
You'll get the best of passion if Jack goes out and does the shoot, or Dylan does, or whichever, who can dedicate the brain space to you as a client. I can't do that. Or he can't do it. Do you know what I mean? It's like there's too much going on to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Which again is like it's like a different type of tired. You're not fucked at the end of the day physically.
Yeah,
but mentally you're just like
socially.
Yeah.
Well, like probably for us now, and probably similar with yourselves, it's like the mental capacity that Reece was referring to there is like, people are putting a lot of trust in you and probably a lot of capital and a lot of cash as well to help their businesses grow, which is everything to them.
Yeah.
That's like a big pressure, do you know what I mean? And that kind of falls on
Yeah,
us.
but you're inheriting that stress off them essentially. If they like they're trying to get rid of the stress by throwing money at something and sort of trying to make the problem go away. So if they're like, I struggle with content creation, or with us, they're like, I struggle with my website or with graphic design or whatever it might be, they're essentially going, I've got a problem, I'm going to throw money at it and the problem's going to go away. But then if the problem doesn't go away, they're like, well, I'm spending all this money, you haven't took this stress off me, essentially what am I paying for? So a lot of people might think that they're paying for the skill or whatever it might be, but they're essentially paying to get the bandwidth back or to de-stress essentially.
I feel like as well though, because like you just said, you're at the forefront of the business. Like I focused, I focused for me from the start was to make sure that it wasn't a personal brand. It wasn't like Callum.
Yeah.
It was, and that's why I pushed so quickly to like bring Liam in and like other people that were to start building this team. But you almost have that double sort of pronged approach where a client will come, a potential client will come and they'll go, they want to use your service to grow the business, whatever it is, but they've also seen you grow your business. So not only are they expecting the project to, whatever the goal is, get them more leads or get more eyeballs on the business, but they're almost guaranteeing that they want it to work because, well, you've grown your business.
Yeah.
So you're going to do the service for me and that's going to work, but also you've grown your business, so there's no way this campaign won't work or whatever, and that's where the pressure comes in, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. But like, I suppose, there we go.
The
Podcast
Butty
jingle.
Bang.
The half time.
This is 10 episodes. We've done it at the same time every time, and that still goes. We've
We
never
need to
changed the
record
time.
that, you know, and actually put it as the jingle.
Oh, yeah.
What was we even saying? That's just sidetrack.
We'll move on. So I want to, obviously I've kind of been along for the journey, me and Liam have been along for the journey of passion, and you've just explained already about sort of how it started, about how the passion came along or the passion transpired. Talk us through the journey from the start. So the spaces you've been in, how the service has evolved, how the teams grew, where we sort of cross paths as well. Talk us through that. It's interesting. I'd like to reflect back on it because sometimes you don't get time to.
Well, we started with literally just like working in like Starbucks and stuff. I remember like when we were like, should we give this a go as like a proper business then? Because we basically, let me start again, we wanted to make a video every day for 100 days, and it was hard graft.
Yeah, my God.
And it was just for us, we were like, to make us do a little bit more so we're not just sat at home twiddling our thumbs. And then we got a bit of traction with it in terms of like Meatball Molly and stuff like that. Her nutritionist at the time was like, come and meet this girl, think she's going to be something big. Would you interview her? I was like,
When was this? Go back.
this was
2018, maybe.
2018.
Yeah.
Something like that.
We were like, yeah, okay, sure, sound. And within those 100 days, we'd managed to get like press passes to like Cage Warriors, which was like watching Paddy. I think it was when he'd done like a flying triangle on someone.
Something like that.
And Molly won her first belt. And within those 100 days from filming Molly, we ended up in Walton Prison. Like, literally, like, and I was like, come out. And I was like, mad how, like, just by filming this, we've got into, like, places that hopefully would never, ever get the chance to go to. Like, literally just, like, within the depths of Walton Prison. Which I don't think we were probably allowed to be honest. Because we uploaded a bit of footage and the guy was like, can you get this down immediately? And I was like, all right.
End up back in bottom prison.
He brought us into filming and went, what are you doing with those cameras? And we
Can't
went,
use it.
film? Have you ever tried to film something with those
To try.
cameras? Like, but, yeah, mad. Like that, the variation of it, like early days was just like probably what enticed me the most as well.
Yeah.
Like it was different.
The
all the
experience.
time. Yeah.
And I think like so those opportunities that like kind of cropped up and we wouldn't even say half-assing it. We were just trying to do it as and when. So we were like, should we give it a go as like a proper company and just see what comes from it? And literally, I remember the first 2-3 weeks, we were messaging anyone and everyone was like, we'll do you a video for free. Just, we need something to film. And everyone was like, oh, no, I'm all right, thanks. Because I just don't think like marketing like that was over yet.
It's like you said, in line with social media, isn't it?
Yeah,
The video content has sort of spiraled in line with
exactly.
video content on social media
So
spiraling.
we just couldn't really nothing seemed to kind of take off. And then we got one or two little things, and then that led into one or two other jobs. And then literally, then these were like for like £100, weren't they?
Yeah.
I remember. So we're probably not far off here when you ended up filming and doing some pictures for Transfit.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's kind of takes us to the start of Graphfit a little bit. But I remember Dom messaged me because I was doing all those graphics. And back then, like in line with social media, what we just talked about then, it's very much switched the other way around. We started our business because social media was graphics. And then now over time, it's still graphics, but it's now very much heavily video. So that's kind of changed. But I remember Dom messaged me saying, like these graphics or website I was doing for them, whatever. I've got these lads from Liverpool who are going to do some pictures and video and stuff. What do you think of these prices? And I think he sent me it was either a picture of a leaflet or it was an actual digital leaflet. I was looking at the prices and I was thinking, because he'd had you in already, so he was like, should I get him in again, blah, blah, blah. Look at the prices and look at the picture and I thought...
Hang on, what was the leaflet like?
It looked like a wedding leaflet.
I probably designed it myself. To be honest with you.
Remember it? Did it have some gold on it, mate?
Yeah, it
so
would have been
gold,
blue with like
gold.
gold writing or something.
Oh god, yeah. That was the old logo. Oh yeah. See what I mean?
Yeah,
so I remember when you first did the P and the Passion logo, because then you asked for opinions on what you should do. Didn't you? But anyway, and I looked at the pictures, which looked class, and then I looked at the prices and I was like, I was starting Graphfit and I was trying to make Graphfit work, thinking, what do I charge? And I was looking at your price and I was thinking, how the fuck are they surviving? Because it was dead cheap. It was like really, like maybe 150 quid or something for like a day, and you got like maybe like 20 or 30 pictures, you got like video.
Yeah.
And I was
You
like,
probably got an 8-hour shift from both of us.
yeah,
to be
yeah,
honest with you, like-
full graft.
we didn't
the brothers.
didn't know what like how to kind of do it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it was just about getting the experience first. That was the main thing.
And then that's kind of where we crossed paths anyway.
Yeah, I remember. I think it was on the that. I remember the content specifically from that first transfer shoot, and I think I just learned how to colour grade, so everything was oversaturated, teal and orange to fuck. And I was going through this phase as I was learning as an editor, and I was really getting into it. I'd learn something new, and then I would hammer it across 5 different videos.
Everything was like that.
Yeah. Everything had a transition in and stuff like that.
Could have been a wedding, could have been a gym
Yeah,
shoot.
literally didn't matter. Just get in. And yeah, so like I remember a video specifically on that one, and I looked back at it the other week and I was like, fucking hell,
everything would have been like square videos because that's all Instagram
Yeah.
really did. So then, but then obviously your square video would also go on your website because like it was just so different back then, like what the work you were producing.
And then you messaged and you were like, I'd like to come down for a chat, I think. And then you come up to the
Yeah, I came to your office. Your
so
office, didn't you?
between that, before then, just to like give context, we didn't have an office, and we went building these shoots up, and we were starting to get a few bites with like different companies and a few corporate ones and stuff. And we done this advert for Swan, the kettle company and stuff like that. And he really got on with the owner. You know, like sometimes you just like get
just
like
clicked,
just natural, like everything you like dialect or whatever. I don't even think he said hello to you, did he?
Still doesn't know my name to this day.
It's a trend.
Before you just brought your brother along.
Still doesn't know my name to this day. I go, you all right? And he goes, all right, nice to meet you. But it's been on 6 years. But
Brought your brother from David.
And he was just like, have you got an office? Because I'll send you a load of gear, you know. And I was just like, yeah, I'll send you the address.
So you got the
like.
Swan stuff first, and then you got the
no,
office.
needed a place to put it.
We needed a place to put it. So I was like, send it to this address, which was my granddad's garage. And then I went back to him and was like, can I use the office upstairs, which hadn't been opened in about 20 years, the cobwebs and everything.
Yeah, asbestos everywhere.
Yeah.
But you got a kettle.
Exactly that.
While it's the passion episode, you can work extra hard and put some kind of footage and pictures in of the original passion
We'll have
office.
stuff there. Oh, yeah, we've
Yeah.
got loads, haven't we?
So yeah, we were literally, the only reason we started that like was like we should probably have a dedicated space was because I was like sending us a load of stuff. But they were like, he was like, just send us a few pictures and stuff once they're in, because bet you they'll look class. And I was like, oh shit.
Straight to B&Q because I'm paying.
And then like, so you'd seen those that leaflet, and then you
Yeah.
were like, I want to come in for a chat, and literally was like, yeah, just come to this garage
Yeah.
and then ask for passion, and someone will send you upstairs.
It was more than likely your mum or
Yeah.
someone probably that I spoke to. Yeah, I remember that because I walked in and I didn't. I mean, our office was probably the same size as yours at the start, but ours was a shop. That was the only difference. Ours was a shop and yours was at the garage.
Yeah,
We
the
started a
garage
bit quirky. So yeah, I remember walking in. You were literally just both sat. It was like I felt like I
L-shape.
walked into an interview.
Yeah.
Because you had like 2 desks and it was like an L shape, weren't it?
Yeah.
And I sat down on a chair in front of you, didn't I? So I was just facing like this. I was just facing both of you. This is why you were
Dragon's Den
working.
or something.
What's that?
Like Dragon's
Yeah,
Den.
yeah.
It
Pitching.
was. But I'm not going to lie, Callum knew everything about our business
Yeah.
that we didn't even, he'd done some research.
You've been on your
I,
website,
like-
he's like an AI too. He's like, all the description.
I remember going, he knew everything. It was like more than like I knew.
That's probably because the original plan was to send him to sell you a website. That's probably.
It was, yeah.
But I remember sitting there and I was there for ages as well, wasn't I?
Yeah.
No chat
Chatting
there.
for a
like,
while,
Yeah, we
yeah.
were chatting for
It was
ages.
just it was post lockdown, wasn't it? So,
Yeah.
obviously-
Everyone was allowed out again.
Yeah,
so.
that's it. So just
I do remember that first conversation, like, and I think this is probably one of the reasons why you've been like really successful, especially in the beginning, is because you were really enthusiastic.
Yeah.
Like the conversation, like just it lasted a long time, but like when you left, we were like, "You're a happy fella, then." Now, obviously, now that we know you, we know.
yeah.
Not anymore. People be watching this going, this guy,
I've had the shit kicked out of me now.
enthusiastic.
yeah.
But that it goes back to like you said before about it ties in with like you doing the free stuff. So like getting started and then just sort of figuring it out. I was figuring it out then as well. We were sort of doing it together, weren't we? Like I was figuring out who's this passion is that I was thinking obviously video content was on the rise. I was trying to find somebody that could fill the gaps that I couldn't do. I was the designer, I was the web designer, but I need pictures for websites. So I was just sort of connecting the dots and going, I wonder if this is like a thing, like this Graphfit thing and like all this stuff. And then but like you said before, you were doing the same. You were going touting out for business, doing things for free, and ended up sort of doing a good job. And then that project turned into another project, and that's basically how. That's the similarity in probably both our journeys, I'd say.
Yeah, and then I think it must have been like maybe like a month or so after that. You were like, I think you wanted to book us in, and then was getting something done or finished in the office. I think it was like maybe like that green wall or something. And then we come in and done a load of filming.
Yeah,
And
I think you've shown me you've got the
Yeah,
footage from that as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
put a bit
So
of
it was
that in.
you and Tom, was it?
Would have been me and Tom. Liam would have been on board then, but he would have just literally
That'd
been.
have been in work.
He would have been
Yeah.
working from like 4 till 8 in the morning, probably.
Yeah.
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 And then I'd start working after that. But yeah, it would have been because that's when we did the first graphic like story video, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it was, I think it's only like 3 minutes long. It's on
Yeah.
YouTube. I think it's only like 3 minutes
Yeah.
long. And that's like a square video.
Yeah. Do you know what? I remember that because it's funny because, like Ben said, then you done like all that research and that first lot of filming, I was asking you questions and I was like, I'm trying to figure out what exactly this company does. Yeah.
I probably didn't know at the time.
I think I left and I was like, I think it's graphic design. I know that.
Yeah.
I know that much. But yeah, it was you and Tom, and it was rough. The first filming was
Yeah.
rough. Not just because of using.
Well, I probably didn't feel it at the time, but
No, I think it was just looking back on it. Obviously, we didn't know. And that's something we'll probably get into in a little bit, but we didn't know how to interview people. We would literally just set the camera up, hit record, and go ahead.
yeah, talk.
And then I think you were fine and confident on camera, but Tom obviously wasn't.
Yeah, yeah.
And everything. I think we had to piece about 8 videos together for this one video.
Yeah. Well, Tom would have been 18, 17, 18.
Yeah,
something
Yeah,
like
probably
that.
11, 18. Yeah. That
Yeah. And I was a couple of years old, maybe 21. I think I was 22, something like that. So it's young, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
the thing. And then from there, it just feels like everything was pretty much a blur. Like, for my...
For a few
that seems
years.
like the earliest memory of starting these businesses. And then from there, it's just like, fuck, what the
No,
fuck's
do you know what I
happened since then?
remember? I remember coming back. I know we come back a few times to there, but I remember coming back one specific time and the mic pack burns JLP.
Yeah, it burnt, Jay. Yeah, do you remember that? When you were doing some filming for Graphfit and Passion were filming and the mic thing burnt you?
Yeah,
It's point of claiming.
it never happened to anyone else. That
Still
and
going,
then
aren't you still going through legal on that? he's not actually allowed to talk about that. Right?
That's why we changed the dress.
And then JLP turned up.
but yeah, and then obviously you've got that. Well, now the old place, but was the new place.
Yeah.
And that was good because we filmed obviously the build and stuff, and I felt like at that point you like jumped quite far ahead of us.
Yeah,
that,
he
do
kind
you know
of
what I mean?
really like took off.
We
then
just
for
got
us.
dragged, didn't we, at that point?
Yeah.
Pretty much like lockdown wise. I remember we launched like a home workout guide, didn't we? Like a done for you, like buy it for like probably 50 quid or something. I think we put like a boosted post behind it or something. Like we shifted loads and we were like, shit.
Yeah.
That's like do it all. And then at that point, like you said, I think probably with the price we were charging, me and Cal were talking about this before about like when you have like competitors and stuff, you end up charging that little that your volume of work's massive. The money you actually get from it is pretty shit in comparison to what it should be. And you just get dragged kicking and screaming. And at that point, you either got a decision of like, I can't hack it anymore. I'm not getting paid enough. I'm overworked. I'm going to pack it in. Or you go like, well, we need to do something about this. And then we've obviously took the route of like doing something and developing it. But as I say, at that point, we just got pretty much dragged, didn't we? Like by the business for a good few
Well,
years.
I feel like that there's sort of like a cool parallel because when you was on about before about graphics and video and then how them two have been sort of like differently important at different times as social media's grown. So at the time, Graphfit sort of really like skyrocketed because of graphics, because graphic design was the main thing that we did. And everybody was started posting infographics and things, especially in the fitness industry, on Instagram. And we were sort of like the people that were doing that. We were like the infographics people. And then, so we probably grew a lot quicker than you at the start. But then you sort of fast forward to maybe the last 18 months, 2 years, maybe something like that, where graphics has sort of been leapfrogged by video. And now people are doing, well, started by doing obviously reels, well, IGTV first, and then reels. And then just general video, and now it's going into like short form and long form. So now you are probably seeing more of a what's the word?
Trajectory.
Yeah, than we are because the demand for video is a lot more.
But is
than
that
it
why
was.
you're here?
Translator.
The reason why I've done that is because I was filming the other day and I tried to say it and I couldn't say it.
Thesaurus, that for Annie, as well. Where's it end?
But that's so the sort of how the businesses are pivoting for different services.
Yeah.
We're probably seeing the peaks in growth from that.
Yeah.
I say that's where you are getting dragged with what the industries you're working in. Essentially, you're just going to react to whatever the trend is, I suppose.
It probably made a big kind of like pivot for us as well at some point where, and you're probably a really good example of this, in that when we'd film you in the past, you would know exactly what you wanted. So we'd be coming out and almost going, right, what are we getting?
Yeah.
And you'd be like, I want to hit these deliverables. Can you do it in this like style? Can you do that kind of check as well? Because I always remember that you'd go through the camera.
I'd go for
like
everything,
I'd actually hand the camera over and you'd go
Yeah.
through. But now people come to us and go, I don't know.
Yeah,
what
yeah.
else. Like,
That's
can
the
you
authority. That's what
sort it?
authority gets you, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. And I don't really know at what point we kind of made that leap to like be able to offer that like expertise, if you say, like, but we just kind of went, right, this is what we think.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
we've done it time and time.
Well, I think like going back to what I said before about you obviously you coupling two things together. It's the level of projects that you're kicking out. So automatically people are going, "Fucking hell, these are good. Like I like that part of that. I want to do that for my brand or whatever." But then they're also going, "Passion's doing well, aren't they? That Reece and Ben are doing well.
Yeah.
So if they're growing a business, then maybe they'll know. So I'll just ask them.
Yeah.
I won't try and guess, because I got to a point where, and I was obviously on the same journey as a lot of your clients, where I was your client, and at the start I really knew what I want, and still to this day, like I still like when Jack's filming, I'll go, "Can I just check them before?" But still, I probably came to a point where I was like, I think I might be getting in the way of Reece and Ben if I tell them too much detail of what I want, because they're just going to deliver what I've just said, and they're not going to add any of their own creativity to it or their own vision to it. So I'm always limiting you to what you can do.
yeah, and it gets to that point now where you can sort of go, right, well, if we have a meeting with someone or whatever, and they go, well, I want this and this and that, and we go, well, that's probably not gonna. We could always go, well, you probably just need a videographer that you can go and get. We're a little bit more than that now. And they probably go, I'm probably a little bit more expensive than what you've got there as well. So it goes back to that thing about the pricing and getting dragged and that. And it's almost like you're attracting the wrong person at that stage. But being clear on that and being like, this is kind of what you're getting. You know, you see people all the time who go like, I offer like a social audit or something, and it's like £100 or something like that. And I'm like, just come in and we just tell you that, like, you know, here kind of thing, because this is what we think it's going to be a bit more of a long-term thing.
Yeah, you get to the point with it. We've discussed this with like services. People have asked us, do we do certain things, like would we offer business advice, would we offer strategy and stuff like that? And you sit there and you think, like, for what you get paid, like you're like, no, we're not doing it. But then we've always gone off, like, if it's gonna help us do our job. So like, if you look at paid media, for example, if people are after strategy on running like their organic campaigns, if we're not doing that because it's not listed in these deliverables that you've signed up to for X amount per month, you're kind of cutting your nose off to spite your face, because you're like, well, if the campaign's doing really poorly and you're sat on like a piece of information or a strategy that you think will do really well and they'll yield a load of money off it, like keeping hold of that doesn't really like serve you in the end, because they'll end up churning from the service because they're like, well, we're not getting the results that we want, and you're sort of sat there with this thing in your pocket that you could have
just given them.
that could have benefited both parties. So you probably do get to a point where you're like, I can't do that, and then it's like, I can do that, but I want paying for it, and then you're like, I'm going to do that because I can do it, and it's going to benefit us in the long term for both parties. So
the biggest thing for us with that has always been like the deliverables of video, because obviously if we go out and it's probably something we're a lot better at now, but obviously each take a case by case. But if we go and spend the day here filming, well, at least when we used to, when we turn up, say we get 15 videos, 10 videos, whatever it is, there's always a little bit more because you don't end up wanting the video or there's whatever. And we got into this habit of just being like, well, who benefits from us keeping hold of it? Like, we might, if I say to them, oh, it's another £300 for this video, they probably, when you think about it psychologically, £300 for one video, probably not going to pay for it. But that one video that I give them for free kind of gives them like, oh, do you know what? They're not just trying to like grab money from them. They actually like obviously want to see me do well. So it kind of enhances the relationship a bit. But that one video could get you another 2 or 3 clients because
or them spending more money next time.
Exactly. Oh shit. Exactly. Because you kind of like who's their target for that. Do you know what I mean? And stuff like that. So we've always kind of, I mean, we're a little bit more stricter on it now, just because sometimes people will just run away with it and want
like you said, it's like case by case, isn't it? If you've got someone that you work with who you've got like a good relationship with, and they don't sort of like put you in that position, you are probably more viable to going like, well, yeah, we will give you everything we film, we'll give it to you, and as long as it's not affecting you as a company or affecting your team, you're not stressing them out, and you're like, they want 30 reels out of that pod, and it's like, it's going to take you a lot of time, you're going to pay overtime for someone to do it, you're going to stress someone's workload by doing it, as long as it's not going to impact something.
Not 30 reels worth of content.
As long as like you say, you're not like forcing something or putting yourselves in a position that you don't want to be in. Like realistically, you sitting there and going, we've got 10 reels here that we've not sent over, but like, you could just send them over. It doesn't matter. They might want to edit themselves or whatever it might be. It doesn't really cost you anything in terms of time, effort, or money. So
there's not one client that we haven't got that type of relationship with now, to be honest. And like, you know, we have all the terms and conditions and things when you sign up with us, and like, oh, we can shoot it's extra per hour, all that kind of stuff. But we don't do that with anyone. But I guarantee you now, if there's a service or something that we can say, look, we can look and do it. Because there's just a trust there straight away that you're not taking the piss, which is like it's the main thing for us,
game,
really. Yeah, that's it.
Where are you going? Are you looking to stop working inside Passion tomorrow? Are you looking to sell it tomorrow? You're going to be here for maybe a minimum of the next 5 to 10 years minimum. What are you rushing? What these relationships could potentially still be there in that amount of time.
Yeah, probably. And that's what I'd rather do than have like a high turnover of like client and then with that high turnover of staff and all that kind of stuff. And you just think, what's the point?
It's that balancing thing as well. Of like, obviously, very lucky that we can pick and choose the clients that we work with. Like, we get a lot of inquiries now. Some of them, they're just outright, like, you don't know yourselves. You look at someone and just go, that's just not going to work.
Not a good fit,
Whether it's like doesn't align with us or what they want, they don't really understand our offerings properly or whatever. So we can spend the time and go, okay, we're going to onboard this new client, really go through how it works and stuff like that. Obviously, we'll touch on that in a minute when we moved in here, but you kind of taught us about how to actually use cello. Rather than,
we'll go into that. There's some good stories there.
But like being able to onboard them that way and stuff like that, like, is completely different to how we used to do it. But it's worth investing that time in because we can.
You know well, if you go back to what you said earlier on, where it can't always be you editing, you shooting, for an example. So then all of a sudden, when you start growing your team, you start adding team members, and you know the potential. And there's that sort of risk of being frustrated by you don't feel like you're getting the potential out of someone. Usually that comes down to process. Usually you've got the skill in the person that you've hired. So you take that. Who was the first person you took on? It was Matty, weren't it? Matty, like a Matty, for example, or a Jack, or whoever you took on, and you go, you know that they're good enough to produce the work that you want to produce. Usually the sort of bottleneck in between is process.
Yeah, it was probably the failing from our end as well. Like, you know, like 100%. Like in terms of like,
but if the buck stops at you, it's your responsibility.
That's it. And Matthew was in the other week, like when we were chatting to him and stuff and all that. But
I've seen him come through.
Like,
what's going on here?
You rubbed your eyes.
I was like, oh.
But you're learning yourself along the way, like 100%. And that's where like it goes down to this thing of like not working in the business, you're working on the business and making sure that everyone's happy and all that kind of stuff. I
think I remember you saying something we were at a point where I think like we got to a certain kind of point within Liverpool where most people specifically in fitness would have heard of us to a degree, or do you know what I mean? Maybe Liverpool Witness, whatever. And we were just probably at a bit where we were too busy. We didn't have time to like take someone on. And we were just like chasing our heels all the time. And you were like, you've got to this point because you're grafters. You know what I mean? You're willing to, but if you've got to stay late or get up early or whatever, like it's working, but it'll work until it then doesn't. And I think like when I went away and kind of thought about that, I was like, we've kind of got to where we're at by just kind of like being
bullying your way through it.
Do you know what I mean? Just like pushing, pulling, whatever. But then I was like, we probably need to. We've got this far without knowing how to run a business. We've just done what we felt was right. Now, if we can try and learn how to run a business, let's see where that can take us.
It's something we've always spoke about in business. Single point failure is like, it's sort of like a real business term, but it's scattered throughout the business. And something we've always said from the start is to avoid single point failure. So even like at the very start, I was almost building Graphfit as if, when I was on my own, as if there was 2 or 3 people in the office, because I knew at some point I was gonna be the one that made this business not do what it needed to do, whether that was through growth or take projects on or not be able to charge as much as we need to charge, whatever it is, it was me that was going to be, and that's something I learned from the company I worked for before that. So then when obviously Liam came on board, and I knew that Liam's role was always operational. It's something that was my weaker point, the operation of the business. And when Liam sort of came on board and then became full time, you had a saying that you've always said, everyone should be able to do everything, but not everyone has to be able to do everything. So I might be stronger at something than Liam is, and I might be the goal person to do that. But if I'm not there, Liam can still do it. It's the same with the team. Like, Sean is dedicated to web, but we've probably got maybe 3 people out of 8 or 9 that could take on that project. Is the quality going to be the same? No. for different reasons, but it's avoiding single point failure, and that's what you just said there. It's okay.
There's no
while it's
exposure.
okay.
Like-
Great days are great, but shit days are even worse
Yeah.
because you're usually a bottlenecking yourself.
100%. And I think like we were literally just when we were out working was the only time we would earn money. Do you know what I mean? And stuff like that. And it was just good to kind of have like a bit of a reset and think like, oh, what do we want to learn next? Because I feel like every time, I know it sounds like very obvious, but every time we've like put time and energy into learning a skill, like it's really helped. Like, I think we were one of the first people, I don't want to say the first, like, but we were one of the first people to change the interview styling, especially like Northwest, like, and it was something I'd seen, Gary V, like, he weren't talking at the camera as much. He was having a camera set up, and I was like, it's like you're there.
It's like a fly on the wall, isn't
Yeah.
it?
So we started like, again, we didn't invent like bloopers or anything like that. They've always been around, but we started doing them. We started seeing them.
That kind of became a bit of a stamp of passion. That
and we found like they were doing better than the videos they were paying us for.
Yeah.
And I was like, why?
Well, funny enough, just to back your point up there, I actually said to you the day I was talking to you about it, and I said to you, we have kind of lost our way with that type of stuff. We over the past like 12 months, we've been so busy and the team's been growing and we've been doing so much work that you start thinking about lead generation and sales and content and all this stuff. And you look at the content that did the best, probably, further than 12 months ago. It was that stuff. It was the bloopers. It was the culture stuff. It was the funny stuff. And we stopped doing that. And I genuinely believe that we've seen a decrease in some areas of engagement on socials because we're not doing it. Even though it's not saying, click this button to, submit your website design brief. It's not sales stuff, but it's culture stuff. The culture's never changed. It's improved, if anything.
Yeah.
But we're not showing it as much.
But I think it's, well, when it kind of got to that point, I was like, well, why is that happening? Like, what is the reason for that? Like, the bloopers or BTS or whatever doing better. And it's because people are naturally themselves when they're doing that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's when I started thinking about like interviewing and how like different people do different things and stuff like that. And being able to have a conversation and look at someone in the eye and then be like, okay, what do you think on X, Y, and Z? And them tell me and me edit around that, then go and tell me the process of such and such.
Yeah.
It completely changes the dynamic. And it's not 100% foolproof, but people will relate to being, when someone's being a little bit more just organic than, oh, click this button here and like it becomes like white noise a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the bloopers and stuff like that, like people know like, oh, you can't, unless you're a really good actor, like you can't just like fake a laugh or you know what I mean? So I think it was at like that point, then we really was like, okay, we need to figure out like all these processes because everyone seemed to be going, I want that.
Yeah.
People would literally be like, can you make me a bloopers reel? I'm like, what the fuck can I make it a bloopers
You're the
reel?
blooper.
But like even like today, like the TikTok stuff that you see and all that, like, and Kelsey is forever sending me stuff going, can we make this TikTok? And I'm going, you just, if you want to do it, you do it. You're not going to make me dance like an idiot in like this in the office or whatever. But that kind of stuff is important. It's not
I was
selling.
literally talking about the same stuff with Elizabeth.
Yeah,
today.
it's not, you're not selling anything. You're not, but you're just showing like you're just getting your presence out there, your brand out there in a different way. And
It's just really easy to lose light of it when things get serious and you start taking team members on, and all of a sudden you got liabilities and people that you're responsible for. All of a sudden, like silly culture content sometimes or having a laugh kind of isn't your main priority.
If you do something like that, chances are it's probably going to get good engagement, something like that, which gives you a little bit of an incentive to do it as well, the team to do it, because you're seeing results. They're going, it works, let's do it again. It's that dopamine kick, and you just don't know where it's going to kind of lead to. But as a creative as well, you've got to show that you're doing that kind of stuff, because otherwise other people will do it and you're not doing it, and then it's like, well, you're a bit old school now. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of like the biggest fear.
I feel like that's where like marketing strategies and social strategies have got more complex, because one thing I realized, and we've done it recently with the new bits of content we had the podcast and the Friday show, and we did all these things, and then you go, right, that's the result, that's the final blueprint of our social content, and then you get about 2 weeks and you go, we're missing that, or that's actually not working.
He says we. It's just now.
Yeah, it's just me. Yeah, but and that's I as an example, the culture content I mentioned before. We've added all this like structure to the content. The content's better than it ever has been, but I'm like, it's great, but we're missing one thing, and it was the really simple thing we did 12 months ago.
Yeah.
And nothing is ever finished. It's like that's where I go wrong. I think I search it, especially with social content. I search for like the final product. It's like if we create that type of reel and we do it at this period or this frequency, it'll get this result. And then you do it a couple of times, you go, I need to change it, and nothing's ever finished.
That's it. And I think, you know, I say this all the time within the team. It's like social media is always getting younger, but I feel like you've got to have that balance of having young people there to spark the ideas and all that kind of stuff, but then the experience there to show this is how we execute it. And I feel like, you know, the team now will say stuff and I'll go, I haven't got a clue what you're talking about, like a brand or something, and I'm like, guys, I'm 30 next year. Just throw that out there.
Liam, by the way,
not as old as him, though. Just throw that
you're
out
old, aren't you?
Am I the oldest there? No.
Yeah.
How old are you?
I'm 30.
Yeah, so that's all right then.
24.
Oh, shut up, you.
26.
So you're the one doing all the fun videos, and I'm there piecing it up. trying to actually make money off the back of it. We're not just the influencer. We actually sell things as well.
But we've had this conversation, Carl, like 9 o'clock over there on a Friday night, going like, you know, it's finding that balance because it is going to keep getting younger and we're going to keep getting older, but providing that we don't drop the ball with it and we're kind of executing it in the right way, it should be a good formula for it in a tasteful way as well. You know, there's got to be like
just it's tied. You know, it's execution, isn't it? That's kind of idea to execution are two different things. Some people are really good at idea. Some people are really good at execution. Some people can do both if you're lucky, but usually there's a strength. But so what point are we at now? So we're still in. We'll go back to the story because you've sort of mentioned the progression of the service anyway in that, but we're up to maybe 2020 through lockdown.
Be a bit more. You'd be in your second office at this point, wouldn't you?
So no, that's
20.
when we were picking back up of when you were moving in. Was it moving into the second office?
Maybe, because we were in the first office for like a year and a half, maybe.
Yeah. So we were started to go like literally up and down the country, filming in like Scotland and stuff like that, and it was a lot, but again, it was just like it was boss because you're getting laying in a lot. Do you know what I mean? In terms of like cameras, but like live situations, like anything that could go wrong probably did in those first 12 months, first 12 to 2 years. And then, so then it got to 2020 and lockdown happened. And I think it was like, sounds bad saying it, but like it was like the best thing that could have happened to us. Like, because we had all this experience, but we couldn't execute any of it properly. I was seeing stuff and being like, I want to be able to do that, but I've got 5 projects to finish here. I can't really, I don't have time to work on anything. So I spent that time and we were just going back and forth, like trialing different things and different video techniques. And we probably had about 2-3 months of doing that and like fucking baking cakes and going on stuff like that.
No, like even stupid things like sending out a proposal. We'd never have thought about doing that, you know, going, well, this is what we think and this is how much it's going to cost, rather than just sending a WhatsApp message going, it's this much money and we'll just see what happens.
It's been able to afford the time and the bandwidth to be able to go, let's actually put some thought into this rather than going,
serious,
it's going to take me half an hour or I can edit one of them videos instead. Like, what's it going to be? And it's got to be the video in at that point.
And I think, like, I probably struggle a bit more in the sense that, like, going back to that perfection thing, is that, like, I don't find perfection in anything.
I think you're probably at a healthy point if you realise that.
It makes me feel really like pessimistic about things sometimes, but it's not. I'm just like, I just always think it can be different. It'll be changed. It'll be like, it can be done better, but never perfect. Like, you know, and even at the time, he'd do a video and I'd go, oh, it's a bit like, you know, maybe we change this text, or I'd do this, and he'd go, no, those colours are wrong, or something like that. And it's just been forever like tweaking like that, but starting to actually take those things like seriously and going like, well, all right, we're not going to have the answers, but just keep running with it is like the main point.
It was a big learning curve with yourself as well, like, because we've obviously, I don't know how people run a business like on their own. Like when I've had like shit days, or like I've been on a shoot and I've been like, oh, what the and he's managed to get 6 shots, or vice versa. Like he's come back and been like, don't know what's happened there, and I've been able to make the edit work or whatever. But that goes across everything, like finances, logistics of everything. But I think probably when you got into that second office, you were pushing more on socials. I don't know whether it was because obviously you've now got more rent, more staff,
needed more money.
But I was sending videos, and it got to that point where I would send videos off to people, and usually they'd go, yeah, sound. And you were probably the only one that'd be like, no, that text's wrong. No, that's wrong. Like, I'd still send it to Ben, and he'd go, well, maybe change this. But you were like a perfectionists on it, which I'm not gonna lie, was annoying at the time.
Yeah, I'm sure it was.
But like, it was really good because it was like we then started kicking out projects that was at that level of detail, and I never used to think to ask for people, oh, what's your font, what font do you use, what colours, none of that. But because of obviously working with yourselves and stuff and how kind of just on it you were with it, we started putting these projects out that had that next level of production value that probably a lot of people weren't doing.
Yeah.
Again, it comes down to like time and stuff, doesn't it? So yeah, that was around that time.
Yeah. And then it's a bit of a blur really, but that's when our team started to grow. Like you said before, our team grew earlier, not necessarily quicker, but earlier than yours did. And now we're probably not far off the same point.
Yeah, well, we were talking about this the week when you said you decided to go kind of team heavy quite quickly.
Yeah, we were on about it the other day. What was we on about? It was on about like margin and profit and stuff like that. Weren't we? One of the nights.
Friday night,
we talk about this at 6 a.m.
It was literally about 9 o'clock on
at
a Friday night. It's gone, why aren't I in the
We're
pub?
probably having the same conversation at different parts. No, because what we were on about was like, I think you've got a decision to make, and we've kind of covered this in various different ways already, but you kind of got a decision to make. Your first decision to make is this a me thing? Is this like I said, is this Callum the graphic designer, or is it Graphfit? Is this Reece and Ben, or is it passion?
Mm-hmm.
And you've got a decision to make whether you start hiring other skill sets and other people, or you just chew up as much as you can. Chewing up as much as you can will burn you out eventually, but you'll probably make a little bit more money during it because you've got less overheads and whatever. Or you can go team heavy, which is what I was used to. I'm not going to sit here and say because of this strategy of business that I learned, I'm going to build a team. It was more that I've always been part of teams and I want a team. That was basically it.
Yeah.
So I decided really early on to go full steam ahead with hiring team. Probably sometimes hiring before we needed them, maybe sometimes the opposite, but eventually you get to a point where you go, okay, now we've got the team, am I getting the best out of the team in terms of performance, the amount of projects they're kicking out, the quality of projects, the money that you're returning, and that's what we were on about the other day, margin and stuff, weren't it?
It's interesting how it like progresses as well, because obviously I know I'm jumping way ahead here, but like the onboarding process to like when Jack joined was literally, do us a favour, turn up on the shoot for us, and we'll just fill you in as it goes. I think at first, but before he actually started, I said, come in and meet the team, and he come in without his glasses on, and I went, do us a favour, edit that video now for us. And he was like, and I was like, no, really, edit that video for me. And he couldn't see shit. Just like through.
We can't get Jack on camera here.
Oh, I'll get it. We'll get clips of him, don't worry. But that compared to like Rob, who's just been our latest hire, like he had like a full nice Trello checklist and everything, and you got none of that, did you?
Down into the deep end.
Well, you can see how much more accelerated the onboarding is, and then you getting eventually to the end result. Because obviously when you take someone on, let's say Rob, for example, you take them on with a vision of hopefully by this point they're going to be doing X, Y, Z, or it's going to look something like this. And I think when you've got the processes in place, again, like we said before, the bottleneck is usually the process. You have the processes in place, and all of a sudden you get into that place so much quicker.
Yeah.
That again does present other problems. Like you said it's like whack-a-mole, don't you?
Yeah,
you fix one problem, another problem comes.
So, like you said, you chase perfectionism. You chase like the end game, like to complete the game, and then you think you've completed it, and then you just go to another level, and it's just like more.
But the net result is that you get there quicker, and ultimately, in most things in business, if you get there quick, cheers, Jay. If you get there quicker, generally in business, no matter what it is, if you get there quicker, it usually has an impact on finances.
Yeah.
Generally.
Yeah, like the bigger problems you face is generally because you're at a bigger stage of your business, isn't it? You're probably turning more money over, arguably, like you say, your costs might go up, whatever, and the problems you're facing are going to be higher, but that's kind of the price you pay for the stuff that you get, essentially.
In my opinion, that's where you get to the second point. The first point was deciding that you're going to take on a team. The second point is when you go, fuck, I've got a team.
I'm going to pay for it.
How do I fix it? How do I pay for it and all stuff? But that's when you start maturing as a business owner.
We always like go like take it to the moon sort of thing. Like, do you want to take it to the moon or not? And then eventually you go, we've got to take it to the moon.
Yeah, we've got no choice now.
It's on its way.
It's on its way. You've got to follow it.
That will reach now. But so that was sort of going in, like, obviously going in tandem here. So that was probably, was that 2020?
Yeah, 2020, 2021.
Yeah. So then from your perspective then, sort of, where have you gone from there?
Well, when it comes to like with you, we started working with you a lot more because you started doing a bit more case study stuff.
Yeah.
And I think we were really getting into like the documentary style of filming and stuff at that point. So we that little office we'd now extended through, so
Yeah,
it was still
It
a
was
little
basically
office,
double the
but
size, wasn't it?
Yeah, and we'd kind of started to figure out a little bit of like how we work and what type of filming we do and stuff like that.
Like your identity, like your,
Yeah.
yeah.
We just started working with like the Zone and Cam and that
Yeah.
point, hadn't we? All that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And
I think like that was the first. I used to film everything literally the same way. What you said about those weddings and stuff before. I would film fitness the same way I'd film food.
Yeah.
And a wedding, these like pan emotions with the camera and stuff like that. So we'd really started to learn like, okay, this is for this industry. This is for this industry. And obviously we'd had like Matty in our first hire, and I actually learned a lot from him, because everything I'd do, he'd go, "Why are you doing that?"
Yeah.
And I'd be like, "I don't know. It's just the way I do
Just
it."
doing it.
Yeah. So I started to actually like think about like what I'm doing, which is always a good thing, I think. And yeah, we were working with you with like Sam and Sophie and Amy, like loads of different clients that were kind of coming through, and obviously even that in itself, we learn like, even though it's a similar story, the actual story is quite different.
Yeah.
Like the people are in a similar industry, but
Yeah.
each story is completely different. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And then I'm glossing over anything there?
no, like probably just exactly right with that. Like I was just thinking about the Sam and Sophie thing, which I completely forgot about when I was like.
I was scrolling through Instagram yesterday, looking at like previous content we'd done, and it came up. One of the Sophie videos came up, and because he went to your office, didn't he?
At one point, yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember I came to pick them up from the station with you though when I was filming the documentary thing.
Yeah,
in
that
the
was like
office.
a vlog. We did like a vlog. Didn't
Yeah,
we?
and like again, that's probably like a good point of like, you know, I was just there to film what was happening on the day.
Was that in Cal's car in the gun?
Yeah, it was in the show, and that
was
dead
it.
noise you were
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
near each other.
Yeah, good luck.
We only went to Runcorn Station, they put 50 quid in it. Like,
I had Nala in the back, and then
yeah.
Sam and Sophie were in the back with two cases. Because they couldn't put them in the boot because Nala was in it. And it was me and Ben in the front.
Yeah. But like that's probably like a pinnacle point for us, where it's like we were filming stuff that was just happening day to day. Similarly, like with at the time probably doing stuff with Anton, weren't we? In Scotland, like, you know, and that was just filming his stuff kind of thing, but then also businesses coming to us like separately going like, "Oh, I want to push this, like I've got this coming up, I want to do this, going to do," and that's kind of how it was going. Like businesses starting to like sell on socials and stuff like that, so it was kind of changing at that point. And that's when like we started working with like Cam and all that. And then other interests started.
Because you
coming in.
really started, that was probably the start where you really got like a stronghold in Liverpool, didn't you? You started building that sort of clientele. Liverpool-based
I think
clientele.
like we, even though I'm saying there, like, you know, people started to sell, we were quite lucky because we weren't directly selling things. It wasn't like we've never gone out with a script saying say this, say this, say this, say that, like to sell your services. But the way we were doing it, people were just starting to get onto that, like wanting to see just people that like generally TikTok was just coming up, all that kind of stuff, and that's what people just wanted to see, and still do kind of want to just see it that way. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, you've got to find the balance with. Like,
I think that's probably remained the same all the way through, and that sort of like we both sort of had like a like you said, organic before, like an organic, natural approach to business. We haven't built the businesses. We think about it a little bit more now, I guess, because we understand data and what we're trying to return. But throughout, it's always been a real natural approach to selling stuff and growing. We've kind of steamed forward with the work at the forefront. This is what we do. This is what we believe we're best at. Sort of take it or leave it. You know, if you like it, let's work together. If you don't, then it's not for us.
And it's finding that thing, like even to this day, like filming stuff, how you would film something as a filmmaker, but also filming it how the barber would sell his services, or the coffee shop owner would sell how they want it presented, because they know their audience and how they want to sell it. It's finding that balance a little bit sometimes.
I think this is where the storytelling comes in. So for anyone that doesn't use my brand, by the way, so go over to my brand.
Plug up there.
Yeah. Reece and Ben, Ben mainly kicked it off, but Reece and Ben did a masterclass for us on storytelling, wasn't it? And it's storytelling through content. And that idea came to me because of the video you did, the 6-year in review video type thing, where it was 6 years of storytelling with no words in it, basically. And you talked about that a lot. It was telling the story through content. And I feel, obviously, we've talked about like the interviews and stuff and the bloopers, but when you started doing the documentary content, I know that was sort of, that became a staple then as well when you did the documentary. And then like the vlog stuff, I think that's where you two really, really shine then, because you were able to convey some kind of different message or story in the content without necessarily having to say
Yeah.
what was going on. You was showing it.
I think like being able to like tell a story has been like something that we've stuck to from the beginning. We were just rough at doing it at
Yeah.
the start. But like, you know, you look at Phil Knight, who owns Nike, or obviously Steve Jobs with Apple, like, you know, like they're like some of the biggest brands in the world, but you know the people as
Yeah.
well. Do you know what I mean? And all come like every single company should or will have a story. It's just
Yeah.
like how it gets
Yeah.
conveyed. And then with like the documentary side of things, it's like even that was like very interesting because there would tend to be people building a company that was about to launch, Cam, The Zone, like there's a few others. But they were like looking for a story. But this is when people started to put a bit more trust in us. And I
Yeah.
was like, don't look for one, just let things happen.
Yeah.
And it'll, once we've got all the footage, we'll find it. I'll
Yeah.
edit
it's
a
story
story
enough.
into it, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because 9 times out of 10, something goes wrong or something
Yeah.
happens, and that is the story. But then that adds back into like the whole, even though it's like if it's done right and it's executed good as like on a filmmaking standpoint, and the story's there,
Yeah.
like it's like gold dust. Like
Yeah,
it really just it sells itself.
I think, to be honest, I think one of my probably latest memories in the old office was the second documentary video we did. That was, I'm not sure what the timing would have been, but I feel like that was towards the end of that office, wasn't it?
What of like the build or actually being in the office itself?
Well, yeah, it was the build, wasn't it? But it was, you documented over months and months and months, weren't it?
Yeah,
But by the time the edit was done and the final pieces were filmed, it was probably, I'm sure it was probably near the end. It was only in there for 2 years. Wasn't we?
Yeah.
So we documented the start, and then it probably weren't. It was at least halfway through, I reckon.
Yeah.
That was one of the last sort of big video projects I remember doing with you in that office, probably, which was the documentary. But you made me cry for the first time on camera.
Yeah,
Since then, I've not
that's
stopped
Not
crying.
stopped, yeah. He's not stopped.
I cry every time now.
3-0.
Yeah, but that, again, the reason why I say that is it's a storytelling again. Like, I mean, I'm a bit of a softie anyway, but where that interview technique comes in that you mentioned, that's kind of, you took me on a journey of being sat there, bearing in mind everything you've already said about me, already knowing what I want, and generally me telling you what I want. You took me on a completely different route, and then I ended up crying because what was it? It was something to do with Tom and the lads, weren't it, or something?
Yeah,
being young and
senior
growing
wage
up.
bill, I think, for the month at the end.
Yeah. And then and that's a memory I have of like the storytelling and the interview technique and the changing, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And that probably is, for me, is a bit of a staple in that journey you've been on. Like, as you said at the start, the very first video you did, you didn't know how to interview, and I was kind of just talking. And then you probably go maybe like 2 or 3 years on, and your interview technique in general just made me cry on camera. I'm not sure if that's a positive or negative.
Does that maybe cry at the start?
But that's a big point. I think another one that stands out to me as well was remember when we went to London, we did the TMP vlog, didn't we? And again, because I think we did them 2 vlogs in a similar period, maybe like a month aside or something. And we was trying to get on the scooters, weren't we? Me and Joey T and you trying to get on the scooters. I think that's probably the first mention where we talked about sharing an office, wasn't it? Probably as well.
Yeah.
So that's maybe 2023, not 2022.
2022, I think it was.
We skipped a couple
Coming
of years.
back.
Like,
It was 22.
was it 22?
Coming back on a train, weren't it?
Yeah.
And Carl
Look,
had
so
a few Stellas.
Yeah.
It was like,
Did he cry?
just probably not far off. They were pint Stellas. Just for context, the reason why I talk about that as well is because I like this business. You said before, one of you mentioned before. I think I can't remember who it was. You mentioned about doing it on your own, and like used to getting together and doing things. It helps having that partner, and that's the reason why I wanted Liam involved, was because, well, firstly, he had skills that I didn't have, but secondly, what I've said, I've messed this one up as well. Problem
Sure,
shared
there's
is
a problem halved.
Yeah. That. So when you come to like issues, the great stuff as well, but the issues, like you have someone to share it with.
Yeah.
And throughout this whole journey, even though we both had partnerships, like the agency world, really lonely. It's like smoke and mirrors everywhere. You don't really know. Like I said before, there's either Gary Vee and Stephen Bartlett, or there's like this agency that didn't work. So I was struggling to find like a parallel in another company or other people that I was like, is this Graphfit thing? Is this working? Like, what should it look like? What should it feel like? The closest thing I could relate to was use.
Yeah.
Because we're on that same journey. So I've always had in my mind, imagine like if you create this, like, I always call it a creative house in me. I had like this space where, like, the more I learned about you and seeing the work you did, because you were doing everything that we couldn't do and stuff like that, I was like, that'd be really cool. And then I think we were coming home from London for some reason, like we'd finished the build of the second office, and I was looking at the third office already probably. And I was looking at like bigger offices, and I was like, that'd be sick, that just to fill that office. And me and Joey T we got 4 cans each, I think. It's 4 cans of Stella. You didn't drink.
I was driving.
Yeah, you were driving. And I was like, have you ever thought about sharing an office? Like, keep out, separate company and everything, but imagine if we shared an office and you were like, yeah, that'll be all right. That'll be all right. Probably never be until
He was slaying it though.
I've got to say that. He's had 4 cans of Stella,
like,
we don't.
You ever thought about sharing an office? But what was your memory of that? Because to me, that's like a big part of the journey, I think.
Yeah, I remember thinking this train's getting a bit hot in here.
Yeah.
No,
not even at crew yet. And he's hanging on.
So that would have been about September, I think, that wasn't it?
September 22.
Yeah, not a clue. That video's on YouTube as well.
Yeah.
And do you know what? I was like, I think at that point I was very like probably naive into like how big passion could go or whatever. And I was like, I've never really given it a thought outside of like the little office that it was already in. But I'm quite trigger happy when it comes to like buying stuff, and obviously throughout lockdown and stuff, I really just fell in love with like cameras, editing. So like,
is there a mirror? There's a mirror.
So like, if I see something, I'm like, it's so easy to justify things in my head. I'm like, I work hard, buy it. And
Reece is like, I don't know how we've been working without this lens. Like, we couldn't possibly work again without this lens. How much is it?
I
It's
sell it to
$4,000.
Ben. Like, if we've got to buy it, I'm like a marketer's dream when it comes to that stuff, because I'm like, oh my God, Ben, look.
But do you take Ben's like feedback on board if he says like that's just a
Well,
stupid purchase, you're going to buy it anyway?
Are you joking? Look at all the equipment.
I know, yeah. Like, this is all 4K Ultra HD, but
it's
it'll
already
get
been
compressed on Instagram to 1080p. Like, do you know what I mean?
So I remember like when you said it, I was kind of like fucking starting to plant a seed in my head, sort of thing. And
I know,
Sorry.
I've mentioned it to Ben, and at first we didn't really think about it. It was just like, oh yeah, possibly in the future, and then kind of put it to bed up until you were like, oh, I've seen these 2 spaces. One in particular, I want you to come and have a look at. Really think, I'd mentioned about on the train and stuff like that. So I was like, yeah, I'll come and have a look. And I remember Ben was like, don't know about that, I don't know about that.
I just said no. Like, I was just like, no, I'm not doing it. And I remember being sat in our little office as well, and I was just like, no. And it wasn't like the shit, it was just the risk. Like, like going somewhere bigger. It's just like, we can't even like fill this place then, man, like, doing that. But
there was I remember Ben saying, he was like, what happens if, because me and you were always out doing shoots, and I think we only had Matty at the time. He was like, but Matty's just going to be in a big, massive office on his own, sat there. And I was like, oh yeah, well, I don't know, let's just see. And I was like 50-50. And then you come back and was like, do you mind coming and having a look at this one?